Hi, and welcome to Spectrum. I'm Ruth.
And I'm Brenton. We're excited to have two great interviews today. Ruth, where are we going to start?
We are going to start with Lloyd Jr. He's announcer for the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta.
Looking forward to the Balloon Fiesta. And then we have Rachael Miletkov, who's the Director of Development for St. Felix Food Pantry. And we're going to be talking about, well, food scarcity and how that they're filling some of those needs. It's going to be two great interviews. We're excited to have with us today Lloyd Jr., who is from the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta and that familiar voice as our announcer. Art, great to have you back.
Oh, it's always great to be here.
We're looking forward to talking about balloons today because that is going to be the big event here in Albuquerque over the course of the next, well, almost 2 weeks. Tell us, as we are getting started today, first of all, how did you get involved? I mean, you know, to be the announcer for an event like this is kind of a cool deal. How did you get tied in?
Actually, I've been involved with Balloon Fiesta since like 1983, doing all kinds of various jobs and positions, talking to different people about different things. And about 7 years ago, they had a need, an opening for an announcer, and they gave me a call and had me try out. And I got selected to do it the next year. And now I'm also the executive producer of Balloon Fiesta Live, our live stream of all 14 events.
You know, we were talking right before we started, and you mentioned that there's a huge following of that streamed event.
There is. There are as many people that tune in and watch that show. And remember, they can continue to watch it all year that actually show up on the field. So our numbers, we have double the people or have just as many people tune in as show up on the field.
That's amazing.
And all of our shows are archived. So we've got 6 years of shows online. That's like 250 hours of Balloon Fiesta if you ever really wanted to binge on something.
All right. So those of you who need 250 hours of viewing, there you go. All right. Well, let's talk about the Balloon Fiesta this year for 2023. What is going to be going on that's new? Give us dates though first, because I was telling you, it kind of threw me off. Yep. We had the first Sunday being October 1st. I thought, oh, that's when we launch it, but no.
No, it's always the first Saturday.
All right.
The first Saturday. So last year, Saturday was the first. This year, the first Saturday is the 7th. So this is as late in the month as it can ever be. So actually, even next year, it moves up to the 5th due to a leap year coming in there, but always the first Saturday is the way to look at it. So October 7th through the 15th, 9 days, activities, all 9 mornings and 5 afternoons. This is year number 51, so we're starting our second half century.
That's amazing. 51 years
Yep.
of balloons, really, and that has almost become the theme of Albuquerque. I mean, you see balloons on some of the overpasses, and you know, when you hear of Albuquerque, you see postcards. It's often, it's even on our license plates anymore.
It is. We're the hot air balloon capital of the world. We produce the world's balloon hot air ballooning event. So yeah, it's worldwide known.
What are we going to see that's new this year? That's always the question for any veteran of these events.
Well, we always have some new special shapes, and I think we have about 11 new special shapes to go with the 110 or so that we're going to have. Those are featured on Friday and Saturday, but you may see them all week. One of the big things that's happening this year, though, is, you know, we've always had a gas balloon race called America's Challenge. Well, this year, we're actually hosting the Gordon Bennett, which is the granddaddy of gas balloon events. This is the 66th time for the Gordon Bennett. We're going to have 17 teams from 12 countries here. And this is like the world championship. It's the big deal for gas balloon events. Scheduled to go off the first Saturday night, and these are the guys that when they go for 2, 3, sometimes 4 days.
So this is a distance event,
It's a distance event, so they will probably end up, just based on some early trajectories, they're going to end up near the Great Lakes, that part of the country, after about 4 days of flying in this little tiny cramped basket. Wow. So
that must be
very competitive.
Must be quite an adventure to be in the basket, floating along for 4 days. I mean, that's got to be something.
Yeah, you're cramped. It's cold. When it gets dark, it gets really cold. We're going to have kind of a brighter moon going on, so that's going to be nice for them to do. But the longest flights that happen in gas balloon rides typically happen right here out of Albuquerque.
Isn't that interesting? That's really amazing.
We have the distance. We have the countryside, the land, without having to cross international borders, things like that.
Okay, so as people are getting out there, is there anything specifically new to see on the field? You'd say, hey, this is something maybe you haven't seen before.
Sure. So we're adding a giant kite show for our evening events. And I wish I had great pictures to show you, but I don't.
Okay.
The best I can describe it, it's like special shaped kites that will be flying at 4 o'clock on our evening event nights.
Okay, so that's an evening event. You can get out there, see them.
It's an early afternoon before the balloon glows. That's going to be there. We're going to be building a sand castle on the northeast corner of the field. They have not told me what the design is, so I can't give you any more information. But just tons of sand. It'll be crafted. They're supposed to be starting here like right before we start and be built throughout the show.
Now, there's always places to get food and souvenirs. So those things are going to be recurring. That'll be a staple.
There's like 80 booths along the east side of the field. About half of them are food, half of them are merchandise. There is going to be an eclipse on the second Saturday of the event. So October 14th, it's an annular solar eclipse, which means we're going to get a ring of fire as the moon comes in front of the sun. And so we've got some special merchandise to go along with the eclipse. We've got glasses. This being year 51, that kind of brings up thoughts of Area 51 and aliens. And so Marvin the Martian is going to make an appearance with us.
Good old Marvin.
We're going to have some merchandise. We've got an Eclipse t-shirts and pins. We've got a lot of great stuff along that happening. And during the eclipse, which happens about 10:30 that second Saturday morning, we're actually going to set 72 balloons up and do a balloon glow. Wow. Now, everybody always asks, are you going to go for a Guinness World Record on that? I don't think we're applying for one, but I think we'd get one just without, if it happens, the largest number of balloons inflated during a solar eclipse.
There you go. There you go.
Crazy.
Hey, park and ride's a big deal. Tell us about any changes, about the same as always, or is there something new?
Mostly the same with Park and Ride. There is one change. Due to the school schedules, we no longer have buses available on Thursday. So Park and Ride will be there Saturday and Sunday, like it always is on the first weekend, and then it picks up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the last weekend. So if you usually use the bus for Special Shapes Day on Thursday, it's not going to be there on Thursday, but it will be there on Friday.
Okay. Any special souvenirs? There's usually at least one or two that are hot tickets to look for, maybe look for early.
I mentioned those Eclipse pins. We have sold out twice online already. We have some inventory on the field, so if you're there, that's the time to get those Eclipse pins. The Fiesta balloon actually kind of slides across the sun on that pin, which is probably what makes it so popular.
All right, so think about that as you're heading out to the park. If people have questions, because a lot of times we get guests coming into town.
Sure.
And, at first you're like, oh, yeah, we'll go and have a great time. And then you're like, wow, maybe I should find some detail. Where do you find the details?
The best place is on our website, balloonfiesta.com.
Okay.
There's FAQs there, there's a guest guide there, there's a survivor guide there, there's actually even a video map that will kind of help you figure out what is where around the field. All of the Balloon Fiesta live shows are there. You can go back and get a feel for what that looks like. There's just a wealth of information at balloonfiesta.com.
Do you ever have a fear? Because I know that a few years ago, my daughter was in college out of town, and she and some friends came in, and boy, they had some problems even getting to the field with, I think even one time maybe they ran out of parking or something like that.
We've done that a couple times.
Do you think that could happen this year, or what's your thought?
I think, and this is me making a prediction here, we're going to have a lot of people and we're going to have really great weather. There's a wives' tale that when it rains on the State Fair, Balloon Fiesta has great weather. And we know State Fair had rain, so we're due for good weather this year.
Okay.
And with the eclipse on Saturday, with everything else that's going on, with the addition of the kite show and the Gordon Bennett, I think we're going to have a lot of people. So the tip is come early.
What does early mean? I mean, when you're getting up at 3 in the morning, I'm already feeling like it's early. Is that early enough? I mean, can you get in the car and get down there? What is early?
I'd be shooting to be to the field no later than 5. Be there no later than 5. Prepare for traffic. If you could be there at 4:30, that might even be a better option.
So and that's really important, because I think a lot of times our perspective of early
Yeah.
is different than really what is Balloon Fiesta early. I mean, there are two different kinds of early.
The vendors are open. You can get your breakfast. You can
When
do
do they
your
open?
shopping. The vendors are open by 5, if
Okay.
not earlier. And we have a drone show again this year. That was.
No, I said that's neat.
Oh,
Neat
neat.
thing.
I thought you said 8.
I don't know how many you're going to have, but
We're going to have a drone show, 500 drones. It actually starts at 5:45. So see, being on the field early, a good opportunity to do that. Last year, we had a great show. This year, we're actually going to have 2 shows, a different one in the morning than in the evening, which will take place right before the fireworks in the evening.
you've been there enough times. Do you have a favorite part that you say, you know, I always, every year look forward to? What is it, Art?
That's a really hard question because everything is great.
Okay, fair.
I think the very first all burn or the very first liftoff with the national anthem on the first day. That's kind of, yes, we're here and we're up and going. And so I think that's it. But gosh, everything is so great. It's really hard. Be like asking somebody, what's your favorite kid? Which one is your favorite kid, you know?
Right.
Yeah, you can't really choose. Everything's great.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. Okay, remember, here we go with the 51st annual Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta starting on Saturday the 7th.
Right.
All right, and it's going to be a great time. Art, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. See you there.
Watch the Daystar Network 24 hours a day on KAZQ 32.5.
We are so thankful for you, for each of our partners. You make a difference in the Albuquerque area, in the state of New Mexico, and the sister states that we have reached to. We want to thank you so much for becoming partners. We want to thank you so much for answering the call to the special give that we had. You guys make a difference. And if you have not had the opportunity and you felt that tug at your heart, there are different ways to give and to be involved and to connect with us. The most simple is to visit us online at kazq32.org to become a partner or to give a one-time donation to Alpha Omega Broadcasting. In these days, it is so important, it is vitally important that we stay on the air, that the word and the good news of Jesus Christ is continuing to be spread. And it's because you partner with us and you catch a vision, and because God is faithful to supply the need that you have when you make that commitment. We also, if you'd like to call into the station and to speak to someone, you can do that at 505-884-8355, extension 101 to speak to someone. If they don't answer the call, please leave your name and number and we will return your call. If you have your donation ready to go, you can send it to Alpha Omega Broadcasting at 4501 Montgomery Boulevard Northeast, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87109.
You know, Ruth, over the course of the last few months, we've been talking about the importance of raising $20,000 for some equipment repairs and also some operational shortages. We've, in the course of the month of half of July, August, and now through the month of September, we've raised about half of that, about $10,000. But we still have a $10,000 deficit that we need to shore up. We still need another 100 viewers who can make a one-time $100 donation. That would help us to get where we need to be. We started off needing 200 $100 donations. Now we're down to 100, but we still need your help. So please make those commitments today. Your help is essential. Thank you for what you do.
Watch Jimmy Swaggart and the Sun Life Network 24 hours a day on KAZQ 32.3.
Pleased to have with us today Rachael Miletkov, Director of Development for St. Felix Food Pantry. Rachel, it has been a while since we've had the privilege of sharing with you. Thanks for coming by today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're going to talk about something today which I think is very important as we think about food scarcity and the reality of what's going on in our world right now. Tell us, though, as we start, how did you get involved with a food pantry and what led you to realize that this was something that was important?
So again, thank you so much for having me. When we moved to Albuquerque about 13 years ago, my husband and I got involved just in the entire community. We were keeping granola bars in our car, socks, gloves, just to serve those who we saw at intersections or, in the downtown area of Albuquerque. And we soon realized that, we wanted to get involved further through our church, providing meals, providing things that were more practical on a larger scale, and just letting people know what was happening in the community, the entire community. And I had the pleasure of applying for the job at St. Felix Pantry. I volunteered a few times, fell in love, and here we are today.
Rachael, obviously you have a heart for people who are struggling with, the essentials like food. Now, we are living through a season of time that is unusual for a lot of us as adults, that maybe, you're a Gen Xer or below, you're a millennial or Gen Z. And
XYZ.
Right, yeah, whatever. And, we haven't encountered inflation like this. I mean, this type of inflation, I remember when I was a kid, my parents kind of alluding to some of it, but I didn't get it. I didn't understand. But now we're living through 5%, 8% inflation on an annual basis. How does that impact food? Because, most of us understand. You go to the grocery store, it's more expensive. What's going on with that? And how does that tie into the food pantry? Give us a little bit of insight.
Sure. So I was telling Pastor before we started that, some people are dealing with $1,000 car payment. That's true. Unprecedented. I haven't heard that ever. Unless you're, buying a Hummer, but, that's certain people, and that's not, what we're talking about. We're talking about a used car. With inflation, your car payment is $1,000. If you have a set income, or you're working 2-3 jobs at minimum wage, that's eating into 35, 40, up to 50% of your budget for your family.
Well, how about housing too?
Housing as
housing
well.
has, and even rental, okay? We're not just talking about going and buying a house, although that's getting more expensive with interest rates, a lot more, but renting has gotten much more expensive.
100%. So when we moved to Albuquerque, we rented a 2-bedroom apartment on the west side. It was $800 a month. I recently checked that same apartment rent, $1,300. So it's gone up $500 a month. So that affects everything that your family experiences. If you're at the grocery store, you're going, I've got about $200 for food for the entire month.
Boy, that doesn't go very far anymore.
Not if you have kids.
No, it really doesn't. If you have children or teens, boy, that evaporates. You break that down per day amount.
Yes. And
you would have less than like $10 a day, $8 a day to spend. So how does inflation impact a food pantry? Because, your costs to buy food or to sustain keeping the shelves filled has got to be going up.
Yes, exactly. So we pay, like everyone else, we pay utility bills. Those are going up. We pay for food in bulk, obviously increasing. So basically, we're experiencing inflation too. The good thing about us is that we buy in bulk, so we can stretch that dollar a little bit further. We're buying literally a ton of pinto beans, a ton of potatoes, for example.
How does this play into the number of households that you're serving? Are you still able to reach the same number? Is it increasing, decreasing? Give us an idea.
It is increasing. So last week we hit 500 people. We have not hit that in 2023 until last week. So if you are at the grocery store, those 10 for 10 deals are hard to come by, but if you ever see them, maybe it's 10 for 20 now with inflation. Please consider your food pantries like St. Felix Pantry and make a food donation if you're able to.
Okay, another question that comes to my mind has to do with the homeless population, because over the course of the last several years, but I would say the last several months, maybe even weeks, seems to me like we're starting to see a shift in the homeless population. Now, this is just my observation. I think we're starting to see more immigrants involved in that population base as well. What is your experience? How does that play into the food pantry? Are you able to help them? Is that a different dynamic? Share.
So it is a different dynamic. However, the immigrant population that's homeless, they're obviously very scared for obvious reasons. They're here undocumented. There's some legality around them being in the U.S. We don't touch that. I brought today to share our 4-step easy process. You just bring some sort of identification to come to St. Felix Pantry and receive food. It does not have to be an ID, so it does not have to be a passport or any sort of document that's from the state. It can be a medical bill. It can be a utility bill. It can be a document from your rental car payment. It could be anything that shows that you're a resident in the state of New Mexico, which is our only requirement. With the homeless population, there is a percentage that are undocumented immigrants, but the largest percentage, unfortunately, is due to drug use.
Yeah,
We're seeing a rise in fentanyl use. Everybody knows that there's a fentanyl crisis in the U.S. It's especially hard-hitting here in our state. There's several reasons behind that. We won't get into that, but we are serving about 45 to 50 homeless people every week.
Now, how does that work? Because if you're homeless, I mean, how do you eat a can of whatever? I mean, a Pop Top's one thing, but you can't really deal with things where you got an oven or a stove top or some other way to make that. How do you deal with that?
That's exactly right. So just like Pastor said, we pre-package homeless bags.
Okay, different.
Yes, with everything from the Pop Top soups to granola bars with high protein, fresh fruit like a banana that can be peeled and eaten on the go. We do not serve anything that needs a microwave, refrigerator, oven. Just like Pastor said, if you're homeless, you don't have that capability. So we serve the homeless population through that. We also provide things like socks, mittens. It's getting into the fall, winter weather, hats. If any of you are knitters out there and you want to knit some hats for our homeless guests, we would be very appreciative.
Tell me a little bit about the ongoing need. There's certain items, no doubt, that you probably need more than others. I mean, if you are buying a ton of pinto beans, you probably don't need anybody to bring in a 5-pound bag of pinto beans.
No, we do.
Do you? Okay, well, correct me.
Absolutely,
Great.
yes.
Share with us, what are the big items?
Always need pinto beans. We're in New Mexico. We know what to do with pinto beans. So dried pinto beans have a long shelf life. They're fantastic for families. And if you buy that huge bag at one of the warehouse stores, we break them down into family-sized portions, so
Wonderful.
Please do consider us.
Is that the big thing that you need, or staples?
Always, yes, always.
Okay.
So anything like canned pasta meals, those Pop-Top SpaghettiOs, canned soups with high protein, anything like the dried beans and rice, again, long shelf life. Mac and cheese is always a big one for our families. Children need the protein for their growth and development, brain health, so anything like that. Dried dinner, like the hamburger helper, people can add meat if they have it to those meals. And then packaged dry fruits and dried nuts. Those are, again, for our homeless guests. They're getting expensive, I know, but if you can afford it and want to donate in your heart, you feel that, please do consider St. Felix Pantry.
Give us the location of where St. Felix is located.
We're right next to Intel on 528 off of Barbara Loop, 4020 Barbara Loop in Rio Rancho.
Okay, so, and I would assume there's certain days of operation. Are you open every day or just certain days?
We are open Tuesday through Saturday, but we're accepting donations Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon. And the reason for that is we have the bulk of our volunteers there. They can weigh your donation, get you a tax receipt for that. Is
there any type of volunteers that you specifically need in one category or another?
Always need morning volunteers. So any of you early birds out there, we're talking 4:35 in the morning. Our volunteers come to the pantry. I know that's a hard ask, but if you're a morning bird and you want to volunteer, we'd love to have you.
All right. So St. Felix Food Pantry is located in Rio Rancho. That is Sandoval County, correct?
Yes.
But you service Sandoval and Bernalillo counties?
We do. We serve anyone in the state of New Mexico. That's our only requirement because of your generosity to us. We don't have an income requirement. Again, with your immigration documentation, we don't have anything, just something that denotes that you're located and residing in New Mexico.
All right, today talking about the St. Felix Food Pantry, food scarcity, dealing with trying to help those in our community. Rachael, thank you so much for sharing with us about this important topic.
Thank you all very much. God bless.
I want to share with you from the book of 2 Timothy chapter 3 verses 12 and 13 today, and I'm going to be reading out of the New Living Translation. Yes, and everyone who wants to live a godly life in Jesus Christ will suffer persecution. But evil people and impostors will flourish. They will deceive others and will themselves be deceived.
Well, yeah, that really sounds like today, doesn't it? That we see a degradation of society, and people are growing worse and worse, and deceiving and being deceived. And yet, in the midst of that, we should understand that there is an element of persecution that is a part of being a Christian. You know, I think too much of the time we think that being a Christian is going to be easy. Now, God has promised, if you seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, all these things will be added to you. There's promises connected with being a believer. But at the same time, we have to understand that even those in Scripture were persecuted. Whether it was David, or you think of Isaiah or Jeremiah, think of people in the Old Testament or even in the New Testament, like Peter and Paul, different ones. They suffered persecution. You know, I was sharing in a message recently about the life of Moses, and of course, the biggest event that we think about Moses, you probably think of him leading the children of Israel out of the captivity, and they get to the Red Sea. Now, think of this: the Red Sea was a barrier in front of them, and the Egyptian army, their adversary, was behind them. Do you ever feel like that in life?
You're pinned in.
Right, yes. Between problems and an adversary. So what does Moses do? He expresses to the people a great amount of hope and declares to them that God is able to bring them through it. And I think we have to have that kind of faith and hope. There's a few verses, 2 verses in Exodus 14. I want to just end with this. Verses 13 and 14 that says, Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid." One great principle for us is to not be afraid. Stand firm. There's another great principle for us. And you will see the deliverance of the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. There's a promise.
That's good.
The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. My encouragement to you today is don't think life's always going to be easy. There's going to be challenges in life. But God has given us promises, and we have to hold on to those promises.
Which one of the promises that He'll never leave you or forsake you. So whatever situation you're in, when you're walking in obedience to Jesus Christ, He is right there with you.
Amen.
Isn't that good? You're not alone.
That's right. Thanks for being with us today on Spectrum. Until next time, have a blessed day.